Curling now enters the Sports Weekend spotlight.
Some frustrated looks, some smiles. That's how it started. Hi again, curling fans. Colleen, 2 games in, 1-1. How's it feeling in there inside the ice?
I think it's feeling fabulous. I think what we're seeing right now is incredible parity from all of the teams. And I think for John at Morris and Rachel Homan at 1-1, tough loss against Great Britain that could have gone either way. I thought they looked strong, especially Rachel against Norway to get their win. And let's face it, Norway being bronze medalists, they're a solid team. Talked to them in the mix zone after Devon, they were talking about still fine-tuning the communication. And let's face it, that's something they would have fine-tuned if in Portage the Olympic trials had happened and not been canceled for COVID. But here's what Rachel had to say.
Yeah, still some room for improvement on getting a few better line calls. I think our weight calls were real close, but just sharpening up on a few lines. And Johnny, there were a few times where I think we got our wires crossed a bit, calls. So I know fans were lighting up my Twitter feed, and hello to everyone across Canada and around the world tonight, removing that geo-fence for fans to be able to watch the show tonight. But people have been very concerned, Colleen, about some of those line calls and perhaps maybe Johnny needing to listen a little more to Rachel.
Well, I did joke to him last night during the Mix Zone interview. I said, Devon and I told you on that curling show to listen more to Rachel, and he laughed. But the reality is they get 90% of the line calls right and the sweeping calls right. And so you're always going to have in curling a margin of error for sweeping calls. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, right off, go, right?
Right.
That's curling. So they're fine tuning that. I think it's overstated right now that it's not a good communication. I think it's fine. These two know each other so well, and they're catching up, if you know what I mean, from maybe what would have happened during the Olympic trials.
Nice to see the fans signing in to the roll call. Let us know where you're watching from, and producer Soph will get it up on the show. Always great to see you guys engage. That's why we do the show. That being said, communication in mixed doubles, because of how precise it is key.
It's key. And the other problem in mixed doubles is the game is so darn fast that you really got to think fast and move fast. And so yelling from one end to the other, okay, you see that. Sometimes if Rachel's at the other end, she's seeing something that maybe John can't see because he's all the way down at the other end. Although I think you can see behind me that big Beijing 2022 sign. Those are huge television angles for them to look up and see.
Overhead during the
yeah, it's overhead or is it straight up, one or the other. But where I'm going with that is that you're always going to see in curling a couple of line calls go wrong.
Right.
No big deal. They'll get this right. They're too good.
Another massive game. It seems we're saying that to begin because they're all big. 9 games in the round robin. You've got Canada and Switzerland, of course. I wasn't sure what boards you were going to be bringing up, Paul, whether it was the upcoming games or if it was the standings. But, of course, in about 25 minutes from now, Canada and Switzerland, that's the big game. And then, of course, at 12:30 a.m., Canada and China, a bit of a time change because of the opening ceremony at the Bird's Nest. But can we go to updated standings, and then we're going to bring in Bruce Rainey and Mike Harris, who will, of course, call the game. But, Colleen, anything jump out to you when you look at that?
It's too early in the competition, really. I think one of the things that jumps out to me is I just was with the Italian coach who I played against at the World Championships in Winnipeg, and she's coaching this Italian team, and they're on top, and no one's going to be looking at Italy. Now they might because they're 2-0, but these are early days, so it's hard to read too much into a leaderboard yet, but they are a very strong team. And Amos, the male, goes on to play in 4-person curling after this. China at 2-1. That was a team a lot of people were like didn't have a lot of intel on, and they look strong.
Yep.
Of course, coached by Paya Lindholm. The leaderboard is just, as you can see, just so tight right now. We're not seeing any separation yet. Australia at 0-3. They're a strong team, coached by John Morris, but not here. And you might see them pick up, and they're too strong a team to not start racking up some wins.
Top 4 make the playoffs. A lot of teams at one loss. We've talked about parity. We're going to see it all competition long. To get their thoughts as they prepare to call the game tonight, we'll bring in Mike Harris and Bruce Rainey on floor 8. I'm on floor 8. You're on floor 10. Good evening, gentlemen. I guess good morning also, because it's morning in Beijing. Bruce, 2 games down going into yet another big game. Some thoughts?
I think the big thought, Devin, to me is that every conceivable shot that Rachel Homan could have made, stop showing that side angle. Every conceivable shot she could have made through 2 games, she has made. I've watched her play a lot over the years, and she seems really, really dialed in. Absolutely. And just, the soft stuff is there. She's always had the power game. So I think every shot, she's been asked to make some really tough ones that are off the charts, near impossible. But the ones that have been possible, she's made them, and that bodes extremely well for this team going forward.
And the tick shots, she owns that too.
The tick. Maybe Lisa Weigel brought that into fame with that team back in the day, Colleen, as you know. But turns out the skipper could do it too. Who knew? But I agree with Bruce. The way that Rachel's playing bodes very well. I think at one point in their win over Norway, she'd thrown 12 draws and was at 92% or something like that. So to Bruce's point, we're kind of used to seeing Rachel being a really strong hitter, and the draw was always the question mark. And she's got her draw weight, and the only ones that she's missing are the ones that are near impossible, as Bruce said. So that's great news. And John played well too, which is great. So got better, but I think to what you were saying, Colleen, in their interview, they're always looking to improve, and they're this type of thing. They're going to get better each game, which is good news. But they're going to have their hands full tonight. They've got the Swiss Olympic silver medalists and past world champions, and they're, like I said, there's no easy ones out here.
Can I jump in real quick? I want to ask Colleen and Mike about this. When you were in these big bonspiels, did you like the tougher teams at the front end or the back end? Was it a thing where you hope maybe you catch them not fully prepared, or how did you feel about that?
You want to go first, Colleen? I was going to say it depends if you're on the top of the podium. If you're the team that everyone wants to beat, they want to play you early, right? So I think I think if I was John and Rachel, just because they haven't played, I think they would have liked maybe a softer schedule out of the gate. But if they can win this one tonight, and they would have played the top 3 of the top contenders and end up 2-1, they would have taken that no matter when they played them in the round robin. So this is they did get the win earlier. They're playing better. They're getting better each time, and I just see their confidence will continue to rise. It's one of those things, Colleen. There's good and bad to playing the good teams early or late.
You beware of everybody. You almost have to just realize everybody's going to make every shot against you when you're Team Canada. You have to be scared when you're going out against a team that's 0-5, for example, because they've got nothing to lose. So you just have to almost forget who you're playing. Yeah, understand what their strategy is or what their weak points are, if they have any, and then just play the game. And maybe not the opponent so much. So everybody scared me. So
I think when you're playing well, you only worry about yourself. I think that's the bottom line, and that's what we're starting to see with this team. They're playing well enough. They don't really need to worry about who they're playing. They have to take care of their own business, and they'll be fine.
Hey, Devin, a quick thought too. You wonder how good Switzerland is at mixed doubles. There's been 13 editions of the World Mixed Doubles Curling Championship in history, and a team from Switzerland has won 7. That's more than half. They've never won a silver or bronze. They only win gold at the Worlds, which is amazing. Wow. And one last thought. What a tribute to you that in the heat of mixed doubles competition in Beijing, Rachel Homan and John Morris take the time to say, man, I wish Devin Haru was with us here ringside. So nicely done, my friend.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you for that. What do they got to do tonight to win? We've been making a lot of the communication. Mike, we'll start with you, and Bruce, you guys are watching, keeping a close eye. What do they got to do to win tonight against Switzerland?
I think if they play the way they played against Norway, they'll have a really good chance. You think of Switzerland, they were 0-2 out of the gate, and then they had to play Great Britain, who they beat last night, Beijing time, and then Canada back-to-back. So things could have really gone sideways had they lost to Great Britain last night. For them, they would have been 0-3 out of the gate, which would have been terrible. So this is one of those situations where you got a team that's kind of backed into the corner already at 1-2. They're going to play well, but again, I think just Rachel and John have to take care of their own business, and if they can get that first stone in play, like Rachel did, very good job early today for our time. Colleen, I know it was last night for you. I think that will bode well for their chances in this one.
Awesome. Good thoughts, guys. Have a great call tonight. Of course, a rematch of that 2018 gold medal game. So that'll be fun to watch, and I know you'll bring us right there with it all. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, gang.
Colleen, we'll talk to you soon from ringside. Bring us some good stuff, okay?
Looking forward to it. Okay.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye, guys.
So nice of them to join us, both so knowledgeable about all things curling Olympics.
Yeah, and we hadn't mentioned that actually, that it is a rematch, of course, well, one half for Canada, but of that 2018. And Cole, do you remember being there at that gold medal game? And we saw the Swiss team talk about communication. It seemed like the moment almost got too big. You remember some of the frustration that spilled out onto the ice when things started to go sideways for that team. So pay attention to that tonight.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that and run away if I see it. Testy. All right.
Listen, this is really exciting. We're going to learn a lot more about Johnny Moe, aren't we? Because we're going to bring in his dad, the great Earle Morris, who's joining us tonight. Always ready to talk. Earle, can you hear us? Good evening. It's wonderful to see you. You've got that Team Canada gear on. Are you there, Earle?
Actually, I am here, but I'm really having trouble with the audio. So I don't know. I couldn't quite hear what you said, Devin. So I don't know if somebody can clean that up.
Okay. We will work on that, Earle. I'm not sure. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better now?
No, it's still just flickering. Maybe what I'll do is I'll switch over to my MacBook, and that might make things a little easier than the cell phone. So let me try that.
Okay. You know what? You know what I love about Earle? He sounds just like Colleen Jones with technology, doesn't he?
Well, hey, we're
having trouble logging in here from the venue. But you know what? I just want to show you because the teams are getting out there. I know it's no Canada this morning. No. Let me just look. Canada's not on the ice yet. Switzerland has first practice.
As we get ready, 7:30, Rocks fly tonight, this big game, and we'll hopefully reconnect really soon with Earle Morris. Cole, you've been there. We made a lot about the conditions inside the ice cube, the humidity issues and all of that. Is there any talk about conditions and slide paths, all of that?
Yeah, really good question, Devin. And I think the conditions, Hans has them figured out. They must have bought every humidifier in Beijing to get this thing going. They're lined all the way up. And as you knew, Hans even filled up the hot tub where the divers hang out, which is right behind that wall behind me. So are the platforms, the 1-3 meter and the towers are still there because this after will move back into the pool, as we know. But so yesterday, the ice looked fabulous. It holds up right through to the eighth end. We'll see how that translates in the four-person game because, of course, there's more sweeping. There's 10 ends versus 8 ends. There's fewer rocks in mixed doubles. So, but right now, the ice, there are no complaints about the ice. What it takes the first couple of games for teams is to figure out what are the patterns of the ice, what is the speed, and what are those rocks. We kind of saw in that first game against Great Britain, Johnny looking back and saying, I've got the wrong rock. They put the rock, you put an elastic on the rocks you're not using. So it did look like he might have had one rock that was a little bit heavier than the other. But rocks are funny things, and once they get into your head, it's hard to get them out of your head.
Get those bad thoughts out of your head. We don't watch mixed doubles curling as much as a traditional 4-person game. I'm always struck by how fast it moves, Call. And if you don't have a game plan, if you don't know what you're doing going into that, I can't imagine, especially on a stage as big as the Olympics, what that's like. It feels like that game can just get away from you in a hurry.
It's speed curling, and you talk about having a game plan going in for mixed doubles, which you do, but one missed shot and that gameplay book goes out the window, doesn't it? You're like, well, we thought we were setting up for this and now we're not. Right. So it's really, it's such an exciting game to watch. And it's helped the growth of the game internationally in such a big way. But you're right. When you're looking at this speed curling going on, you're just blown away by, they have to shout at each other because you can't actually keep meeting in the middle to talk about it, or you're going to run out of time.
I think we're ready to meet Earle in the middle. And he is wired for sound. Earle, great to see you. You can hear us now.
Yeah, I can hear everything really well. What it tells me is it's time to buy a new iPhone because it needs a little updating.
Oh, listen.
It couldn't have been you guys, it was me.
You're speaking to somebody who has more tech issues than you can ever have, Earle. Earle, let's talk about you watching this first from the perspective of John's dad.
Yeah, well, I guess what I have to do is compare it to the last two Olympics. And of course, in Vancouver in 2010, fabulous. It's in Canada. It's your home country. You couldn't wish for anything better as a circumstance. And it was very enjoyable because they were able to win. And then when we went to Pyeongchang, we're sitting in the stands. And that was very relaxing as well. But it's really difficult to be at home and hear the team talking, listening to the announcers, and they're all saying great things, but they're just really getting you right in. And it's a credit to the team, and it's credit to the broadcast team that they get you right down there to ice level. So you're really feeling like you're right there. And so,
but is it hard for you not to be here?
It is now that I realize how much more relaxing it is to be in the venue. It's like if you look at the game from the point of view of if you're a curler, you're probably the most relaxed people around, more relaxed than the coaches, more relaxed than the fans, perhaps. And then when you're coaching, I think that you're just a little more stressed because you can see things going on that you're hoping would be better. And then when you're cheering as a fan and you have a family member on the ice, it's more stressful because as I say, you have all that other feedback going on and you want everything to be perfect because it's your kid out on the ice, and they're humans like everybody else, and not everything is perfect.
So Earle, you've been watching it and you know these two so well. I mean, you almost know Rachel like she is a daughter of yours. I mean, look at these photos. What do you make of the way they're playing, the way they're communicating? What do you like and what do you think they could improve on from both a dad and a coaching perspective?
Well, I have to tell you a little story, and that is that they won the Qualico Bonspiel, which was the major mixed doubles Bonspiel in Canada this year. And I watched the final live. And a couple of days later, John phoned me and he said, "Dad, am I talking too much?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Anya, am I talking too much?" I said, "You know what, John? I really like the way you and Rachel dialogue back and forth on the shot making portion of the game. But I said, Rachel is a little quieter than you. And when she's behind the sheet, observing everything going on, I think rather than going there and doing more talking, you should just leave her on her own." And John said, great, I appreciate the feedback. And then I happened to be talking to Rachel. We were making plans to have a box at the Olympic trials, and I relayed the story to her. And she got a kick out of it as well, because from her perspective, without her saying it, I felt that was maybe her preferred circumstance. So as a parent, I'm liking what I'm seeing from a communication point of view. I think it's going to get better as time goes on. I think the second game, the communication was better. And that's one of the reasons the shot making was better. It's really hard in that first game to be really relaxed out there, especially when the ice conditions seem to be not as good as you really would like to have. So that's part of it. And also, it's the first game, and the Scots had already been on the ice. That can be an advantage or a disadvantage. And I'm sure that the coaches brought that up in such a way that it was seen as an advantage.
Wow.
That was interesting perspective. That was insider curling information.
Well,
what are both of their strengths, Earle, for John and Rachel?
Well, I think that Rachel is the best female shot maker in curling. I'm a little biased in that I coached her for 10 years, but I've watched her a lot. And, that's how I feel about it. And I think in John's case, he's not going to be someone that is going to succumb to the pressure of being on a big stage. He's always embraced the big games. And I think of Rachel being the same way. So I think it's a tremendous advantage that they have. The key will be for them to continue to get comfortable with each other and continue to find a game plan that's going to work best for them.
Outstanding. Earle, two quick questions. I see the Canada hat, and I think you're wearing a Canada jacket maybe. Does that have some significance to you? And if so, what is the significance? And John wrote a really beautiful message on Facebook about what his family has meant on the journey. How's the family all watching and sharing in this experience?
Well, we're actually over at our daughter's house tonight, and we are about 6 of us sitting down to watch the game together. We are all wearing some form of Canada jacket. This one is from the first World Championship
Nice.
in 1998. And Colleen, you might identify. Oh, and there's one of my nephews wearing
Canada. That's awesome.
And come on in, Marie, just jump in the background here. Our daughter, Marie, our older sister, and we have a AAA hockey player here that we might convert to curling at some time.
Beautiful.
And Daddy Mark and my wife Maureen is here. And we're all got Canada swag on, and we're looking forward to cheering them on.
That's so awesome.
Outstanding.
That's so awesome. Well, I miss not having poutine with you and Maureen in the Canada thing at the Olympics. So
yeah, well, that would have been great for sure.
Yeah, don't be too nervous.
Yeah, I think we're fine now. I think that they're relaxing and we're relaxing, and we're looking forward to the rest of the week.
Wow,
outstanding.
And can I say, no one delivers gems of wisdom better than your son, John. He is awesome.
I'm pleased to hear that.
Awesome.
Great.
Nice Earle, to see you. Wonderful of you to spend time with us. We're 5 minutes away from First Rock, so you and the family settle in. Good luck, enjoy it, and I'm sure we'll be touching base throughout all of this. Thanks for making time.
Thanks so much, Devin. Thanks, Colleen.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Go Canada, go, right?
And that perspective that he offered was just so wonderful from both coach, dad, then knowing them as athletes rather than the relationship, rather than sort of as John and Rachel as people. Does that make any sense? He just gave me so much perspective on our journey.
Earl the Pearl, right?
And-
Some really good stuff.
He also summed up well what other families are feeling, not being able to be here.
Yep.
I can't imagine the heartbreak of what that would be like.
No
to be
kidding.
less
Okay, we got to
watching
wrap it up. We got to wrap it up because you're on the
Okay, so
broadcast. But we got to bring on a fan who wants to meet you, Colleen. Chris Briggs.
Hello.
You're on the show, Chris.
Hello.
Awesome.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Chris.
I'm
Hi.
so happy to be here.
You are
We're
in
so
the
happy you're
house, and you know we're getting ready. I see you've got the curling on in the background, but
Yeah.
you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to Colleen. So go ahead.
I'm desperate.
Chris, thank you for joining us.
It's
Where
so
are
nice to
you
meet
joining
you.
us from? Where are you
I'm
joining
in
us
Toronto
from?
right now.
Nice.
I'm a family doctor here downtown. But
Nice.
I wanted to tell you a story that I grew up in a town like right outside of Pugwash, Nova Scotia.
Yes.
And so right around the time that you and all the ladies were doing incredibly well on the world stage, I was, 10, 14, like in that age range. I was like involved in all kinds of sports. But like at that time I started to realize that I was different from everyone else. And then when I see you guys, and who could, no offense, be my mom, out on the world stage just dominating it, doing it your own way, like the skirts were a thing that people talked about. You didn't talk like anyone else. So like it made it okay for me to not belong in sport. And like it was really powerful. And at that, I mean, Serena and Venus were like climbing the they were doing everything at that time. So like, thank you for doing that for me.
That just makes me so happy to hear. Thank you for telling that story.
And it's not a unique experience. I've heard it from other people. So I hope you and the girls know that you've kind of had that effect on the queer community.
Oh, you were so nice. Chris, let's talk about curling now.
Please.
I'm going to dry my eyes.
Let me jump in really quick because Colleen, the broadcast needs you. We're getting a no. So
Okay.
you need to go right now.
All right.
Chris, you and I will continue. And
Chris,
Nice to meet
love
you.
you. Thank
Love you
you.
too.
Enjoy the game today. And
Will
thank you
do.
for sharing that story. That meant a lot.
Call, you're on the air. Chris, it's our show now.
I love it.
But wonderful to see you.
Likewise.
First of all, I know you're a huge fan, and I'm really glad you got that moment with Colleen. Some thoughts, because I know you've been watching all of this. Some thoughts as we get ready for First Rocks.
I think most of the show you talked about the communication. I agree that that's something as just a viewer you're noticing, especially when there's a disconnect. I feel like it's probably not as big a deal on the ice, but as a viewer, when that's all you're hearing is kind of someone making one call but doing another thing, you don't like it looks. I'm sure it looks a whole lot worse than it actually is.
Right.
So that just as a casual viewer, that's a one noticeable thing. So I'm hoping that improves as each game comes on.
Yep. I would agree with that. Predictions for this game? Are you sensing a Canadian win?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're playing better every game. Rachel hasn't missed a shot that's possible, so I'm convinced everyone else is in trouble.
And I can count on you for live tweeting at 12:30 a.m. as well, correct?
Absolutely.
I knew that. Wonderful of you to join us on that
Thank
curling
you for
show.
having me.
Sorry for the short time, Earl.
Oh, perfect.
Earl sharing his wisdom, but I'm so glad we got you on, and thanks for being part of our show.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right, here we are. We're going right into the game. Canada versus Switzerland. Before we go, here's a chance to support Team Canada and win big. You can get your tickets at teamcanada5050.ca. That's teamcanada5050.ca. Support Team Canada athletes on their path to the podium. Each province has its own jackpot, and then the jackpot has a bonus of an early bird cash prize.
See you later.
Have a good show, Call. We're doing it live in no time. Canada versus Switzerland. We're back tomorrow night at our regular 7:30 p.m. time slot. Enjoy the game. Buckle up, Canada. Right now. Have a good show, Call.
See you, Devin. Thanks, producer Soph.
Bye, guys.